What theory, phenomenon or idea blows your mind when you think about it? Relative size of the universe. Especially versus Planck length. The diameter of a human hair, about 50 is roughly the halfway point between on a logarithmic scale between a Planck length and the observable universe. Planck length 10⁻35 Observable universe 810 circumflex 26 We are closer to the year 2044 than 1990. To add on, 1990 was not 10 or 20 years ago but 27. Just think about that. That's enough time to grow up. Drink. FCK. Get a career. Have kids and then have that kid, assuming at 18, be 9 years old. I'm 21. I wasn't even born till 6 years after 1990. Modern children. i.e. 2005 plus. Will grow up with having a goddamn computer in their hands essentially as soon as they're born and throughout their lives. From friends at school. Parents giving them one. etc etc. You literally can't keep them off the internet. Imagine suggesting in 1990 or 2000 that it's impossible. Literally. To keep children off the internet. Now here's the kicker. 2017 to 2044 is going to have an even bigger jump than 1990 to 2017. Literally jumps bigger than the internet and pocket computers. Fascinating. That humans have existed for thousands and thousands of years, but technology like automobiles and airplanes, which many of us take for granted, have only existed for less than 200 years. I can't even imagine how people in the Stone Age lived. The nearest Costco would be like 3 days travel away. Yeah. I heard Costco wasn't doing too well back then. Can we just talk about language in its entirety? Especially written language. Right now. You are looking at nothing but strange connections and spacing of random lines. Within these lines, however, you are able to understand, process, and interpret a complex idea about how strange it is that these symbols can be used to describe any idea at all. Let alone something as complicated as the sciences or philosophy. But not only that, but by changing just one symbol, I can change the idea. To see what I mean? The difference between you love me and you love me is astounding. The different scenario running through your mind when you read each of those symbols is completely different. Entire stories and thoughts. Dictated by AskReddit. Edit. Damn. I go to bed and go from 100 karma to 65 bloody 100 and gilded on a post that was already 6 hours old when I posted. Thanks for the gold. And thanks for the discussions. How much collective work is put into every single thing around us? Pick up a book. The author was not the only one responsible for it being in your hand. So was the owner of the publishing company, the factory worker making sure it was printing correctly, and many others. Look at a building. From the mind of the architect that designed it, the contractor in charge of building it, the construction worker who put his sweat and hard work into those walls. An apple you might have for a snack goes through many people, like the farmer, to the distributor, to the grocer that stocked it on the shelf. Pretty much everything around us had so many people working on it. Many that you don't even consider. That's pretty amazing to me. Panspermia. There are bacteria on our planet that could survive the vacuum of space. If a large asteroid struck the Earth, it could potentially send pieces of Earth containing these bacteria flying out into the galaxy. These chunks of Earth could then seed new life in other parts of the universe. So a cataclysmic event here could lead to brand new life elsewhere in the universe. This could be the primary way that life is spread between planets. Sonder. N. The realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your ants are populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries and inherited craziness, an epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground, with elaborate passageways to thousands of other lives that you'll never know existed, in which you might appear only once, as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk. What is outside the universe? What does the universe exist in? How does the universe even exist? How can something exist? If it exists in something, what does that thing exist in? What the hell happened before the Big Bang? What was the nature of the universe before that? Why did the Big Bang happen? Shit like this makes me a bit anxious sometimes. See the absurdity of reality. All the other things can be explained by the laws of physics. But how do you explain the laws of physics and reality itself? I really cannot handle not being able to understand. Better not to dwell too much on it. The Library of Babel. Still struggle to get my head around the placebo effect. Our bodies are truly amazing. I took advantage of the placebo effect just tonight. It was practically miraculous. My 6-year-old daughter scraped her knee at school today. And tonight at bedtime we cleaned the wound and changed the bandage. She was whimpering and limping, and mind you, this was a pretty good scrape but still just a scrape, and acting like her knee was broken. Kept crying that she couldn't go to sleep because it hurt too much. So her dad said, "Wait right here," and went into the kitchen. I heard the tap turn on and off. And he came back in with a medicine cup full of water. This is special medicine that will help make the pain go away and help you fall asleep. Oh. Is that dihydrogen monoxide? I asked. To help back him up. Yeah. This is really potent stuff. She drank it and proclaimed that it tasted just like water. Then. Moments later. Whoa. I actually feel better. My knee doesn't hurt anymore. Then she sighed and curled up. Marveled again at how her knee was all better now. And fell immediately to sleep. False vacuum theory. Possibly one day a single particle will drop to a true lowest energy state and set off a reaction that rewrites chemistry as we know it. I like the idea that there are expanding pockets of lower energy states in the universe where physics doesn't work. But the universe is expanding faster than they are, so it's okay. It wouldn't be okay for anybody living too close to one of those pockets. Well, they'd be wiped out by the pocket faster than they can detect its existence because it's expanding at the speed of light. So at least they wouldn't suffer at all. It's not exactly a phenomenon, but I think it is. More so it's just the idea that gives me chills every day. Smacks me in the face every waking moment. The fact that there are over 7 billion people out there. Living lives. Every person has a world of their own. A life full of friends. Foes. Goodness and woes. There are hundreds of millions of places housing people. Housing memories. And every person has a tale to tell. A place to go. Something to strive for. There's a backstory to every single existing one of us. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Edit. Grammar. Everything ever has a story behind it. That random plastic bottle on the street? First, the company that made the bottle was founded. Which itself has a story. Then, somewhere along the lines they made that one specific plastic bottle. Transported it to the store. Which again, has a story behind it itself. Then one day, a person that has their own entire life story picked up that bottle. Paid for it with cash. The money itself has went through thousands of people. Which all have a story of spending it. Drank it. Might have thrown it on the ground. One day, by pure chance, you randomly notice a bottle. The insane coincidence that the sun and the moon appear nearly identical in size from our position. Charles Bonnet. It's a condition that only occurs in people with severe sight loss and causes very vivid, unusual hallucinations. One of my patients kept seeing gnomes in her house and felt totally chill about it. One of my patients lost his vision as an adult but hadn't really internalized the concept. One time when his wife was driving, he screamed "Look out!" and grabbed the steering wheel. He saw a valley filled with a river of blood and skulls and thought his wife was driving straight into it. If you didn't grow up being told about the color blue and having it pointed out to you, you probably wouldn't be able to see it at all, even though you have that capacity. It's been theorized after careful study of written texts from various civilizations that as recently as when the Odyssey was written, people simply weren't seeing the color blue even though they had the capacity for the color for more than 10,000 years. Blue is the last color to be given a name in nearly every language known to man. I can't on good authority say all languages, and is the rarest color found in nature. Even if this were only partially true, it's another example of the power of the human brain. Oh, I don't have a name for this color? Well then I guess I'll just ignore it altogether when I receive those wavelengths and show you another color instead. My favorite astronomical fact. One of the largest known stars, VY Canis Majoris, has a radius larger than the orbit of Jupiter. If you replace the Sun with VY Canis Majoris, Earth would be located nearer to the center of the star than its surface. Its surface would nearly extend to about halfway between the orbits of Jupiter and Saturn. You know that classic lesson they do in a school where they say if the Sun was a golf ball, the Earth would be a particle of sand located across the room or something? The point being to demonstrate how much of the solar system is empty space. This big glowing bastard fills all that empty space with star. Its classification is a red hypergiant. F-king hypergiant. For when giant doesn't cover it. And supergiant still doesn't measure up. My nanny has dementia. She's been in a home for the past 5 years and can't remember any of her 3 sons. Or her daughter. She can't remember any of them seeing her any week of the month. But will tell the same story of gnomes coming through her nursing home. They go through the same hall through the kitchen. And that story never changes. But she doesn't remember any of us coming to see her 4 days a week through the months. But she always tells the same story of the gnomes. That's weird to me. Not looking for a response. But just felt like sharing because don't get it and I think it's weird. Minong's jungle. That we have animals that can live in our homes. Sleep in our beds. And be our friends. Always amazes me. I look at my 2 cats and just the beauty of it all fascinates me every single minute. I look at them when they're asleep. Watch their little bodies as they breathe. I stroke them and kiss their heads. Rub their bellies. They just trust us to look after them. Let them out to the bathroom to their tray. Feed them when they're hungry. Then they settle back down and nap or lie on our laps for strokes petting. Same with dogs too. Any pets really. It's kind of sad if you think about it. Like we just take them away and they're essentially forced to live with a completely different species and their lives are in our hands until their final breath. I love animals. So precious and wondrous. Never fail to amaze and captivate me. Also, the idea that free will probably doesn't exist. Just think about it. You see an apple on your table. Do you pick it up? Do you leave it? Do you throw it away? Well, you do like apples so you pick it up. But why do you like apples? You were probably exposed to the taste when you were younger and had access to them consistently enough to maintain a taste for them. What if you never had an apple? Or what if you choked on an apple as a small child? And now they make you uncomfortable at a subconscious level. And if something small like choking on a piece of an apple as a small child can impact your decision now, what other small things in life have helped make decisions? And how many small things have you indirectly done to other people that changed a future decision of theirs? All your decisions are as doing something based on past experiences. If your whole life is nothing but small changes to your thoughts, then does that mean you are just along for the ride? And if 2 identical clones were placed in identical empty rooms at birth and observed, would they do the exact same thing? Could the color of the room then make one of the clones into an entirely different person? Honestly, magnetism. It's such a simple, fundamental physical property of some forms of matter that we use it to pin bills, reminders, and our kids' drawings up on the fridge. And yet the same fundamental force is currently wicking a little constant death ray away from the surface of the earth, scattering it into pretty lights we can see near the poles. We can take 2 magnetic objects and simply stick them together without using any kind of glue or rivets. If their fields are sufficiently complementary, they can become inordinately difficult to separate. Magnetic attraction on a microscopic scale is how planets start forming out of an accretion disk after a new star is formed. The entire universe is in a constant state of electromagnetic exchange. And almost every single facet of life depends on it. And I can use it to pin my kids' drawings to the goddamn fridge. Whoa. There is a plant called the bee orchid. This plant has evolved over time to resemble the female bumblebee, so male bumblebees will try to mate with it and pollinate it. Plants don't have intelligence, eyes or a brain, so how did it know what pollinated it be, what it looks like, and see how to change its entire makeup to look like this plant? Blows my mind. Evolution. Once upon a time an orchid grew in such a way that it happened to look like a female bumblebee. Naturally the bees went apeshit over it and spread its pollen like crazy. Nature is weird like that. Correction. An orchid ancestor mutated something very basic. Like a color change to yellow. This caused an ancestor of a bumblebee, not a bumblebee, to choose that over other colors, for example. Then the two species began a co-evolution with symbiotic relationships that affected both their evolutionary paths to what they are today. The bee orchid and the bumblebee. Quantum immortality. Out there, beyond our universe, there exists a version of me where I'm not browsing on Reddit and actually doing something productive. Isn't that the one where any chance you have at dying, there's a reality where you don't? Because that is seriously FK'd up. Just because you don't die doesn't mean you don't suffer. You get in a car crash and you could die, or you could live with horrific injuries. At some point, you're just a lump of scars and pain. And you can never die. The massive number of individuals living entirely separate lives from me, yet existing in my immediate surroundings, and the fact that each of these individuals has a complex life and mind and a certain amount of uniqueness. Sitting on my porch, facing a busy street, I can easily see 1,000 people pass by within an hour, each of them moving with a purpose. All of them with their own thoughts and emotions. But in my world they mean nothing. Their scenery, and obstacles on the sidewalk and in the road. And then I remember their people. And it blows my mind every time. That the only person I'll ever get to be is me. There are more than 7 billion people alive right now, and that doesn't include every person who has come before me or will come after me. I have no idea what it feels like to be any of those people. I don't know how they think, or how they feel, or what their experiences are like, and I never will. All I have is me. The double slit experiment. And more importantly, the experiment which showed that it didn't matter if the wave passed through the slit and was observed between the slits and the detection screen. It is as if the wave knew it would be observed before it was emitted so as to behave like a particle. This and entanglement seem to support that the universe is deterministic and there is no free will. However, the many worlds theory allows this while maintaining free will. Is free will an illusion? Please read up on it and make up your own mind. An infinite universe. If we got here how we think we did, against astronomical odds, that means it can happen again. No matter how small the odds are. If the universe is infinite, then that basically means the dice is being rolled over and over and over. So eventually it will happen again. Not just life, but a solar system just like ours. With humans just like us. With humans exactly like US. Another dead B100 cuts sitting in a lazy boy recliner typing this exact message out on his phone. Humans are just vessels for the evolution of ideas. To us, it's adaptation. But most concepts seem to follow an evolution like Darwinian pattern. If it doesn't work, it dies out and we choose the more fit belief. With some coexisting despite filling the same niche. They're affected by region. Although commerce and media have caused a lot of invasive species recently. String theory. I can hardly even conceptualize it. TBH. Look at it in the simplest way. String theory refers to the mathematical models which seek to find a common explanation for the four main forces seen in nature. These forces are the electromagnetic force, the strong and weak nuclear force, and gravity. String theory attempts to unite quantum mechanics and general relativity so we can make sense of the universe on all scales. at any place or time, large or small, without breaking down. String theory does this by throwing away the idea that subatomic particles are point-like, instead replacing that notion with tiny vibrating bits of energy called strings. They're so tiny that if you enlarged a single atom to the size of our solar system, a string would only be the size of a tree on Earth. General relativity and quantum mechanics try to explain everything that is the universe, but both come up short. String theory just tries to fill those gaps and much more.